I tried not to say nothing, but I was like, what?
I kind of started to watch him, and then we kind of went our own separate ways because I'm like, you're going to take that route. I can't do that.
I got nothing bad to say. Because a lot of things when you tolerate it, I'm going to say my thing, whatever transpired, I'll bite my tongue, I'll be the big.
Ray Lewis just lit the internet on fire, and not in a good way. His recent sit down on the PBD podcast has fans side-eyeing his loyalty, his motives, and maybe even his so-called friendship with Shannon Sharpe. Instead of uplifting his old teammate, Ray went off, accusing Shannon of being a sellout turned wannabe comedian. But here's where it gets even wilder. Comedian Corey Holcomb jumped in swinging. He blasted Ray for what he called a cheap shot at a man who once had his back when times got ugly.
At his content. I would, in a million years, the things that Shannon has said now or did now, I would never believe that Shannon would say or do anything.
Corey didn't hold back, straight up saying Ray only made those comments because he's salty about Shannon's success. Jealousy much? So how did all this heat even start? It kicked off when Ray Lewis sat down on the PBD podcast and started spilling his feelings about Shannon's career. And trust me, what came out of his mouth shocked not only the fans, but even the host himself. Instead of showing pride in his teammates' grind, Ray flat out admitted he was disappointed. Before we get deeper into this drama, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tap the bell, because trust me, this saga is only getting messier.
I take drinking. Shannon, in my entire career, I've never saw Shannon do it. Ever. Like it was against the law, right? Because he had some stuff in his family that he didn't want to follow that.
Now here's the kicker. When the host pressed him for details on what exactly bothered him about Shannon's choices, Ray doubled down instead of backing off. That lit a fire under Ray. He wasn't just annoyed, he was pissed. He came right out swinging, nitpicking Shannon's every move like it was a crime. Even if Shannon didn't drink back in the day, his decision to start later is his own business. But Ray, oh no, he couldn't let it go. He acted like Shannon having a glass was the ultimate betrayal, and that was his excuse to cut ties years ago. And he didn't stop there. Ray threw gasoline on the flames. He flat out claimed Shannon had switched up for money and clout, calling him fake in front of millions. Can you imagine? Then Ray tried to spin it all like some noble mission, saying he was only exposing Shannon so he could show his brother the light. Fans weren't buying it for a second.
For you to say you don't like that Shannon Sharpe is drinking because he didn't used to drink back in the day when he was playing, well, Ray Lewis, he was playing the game of football. He's a 50-plus-year-old man now, and you say he wasn't doing it because he had some situations in his family. Okay, maybe he didn't want to be like some of his family members off the fifth of Hennessy. But now he's not playing football anymore. It's not going to hurt his body to have some drinks. He can do that.
The backlash was instant. One fan wrote, "Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but Ray should sit it out, period." Another clapped back harder saying, "Ray Lewis has some nerve." This is the issue I have with most Christians, the judgment of others. If you really want to bring someone to the kingdom, you don't start by tearing them down. See, if you really care about somebody, you help them get the tools they need to grow. You don't sit back and trash them.
I take drinking. Shannon, in my entire career, I've never saw Shannon do it. Ever. Like it was against the law, right? Because he had some, some stuff in his family that he didn't want to follow that.
But Ray wasn't hearing that. And for once, the internet actually rode with Shannon. And guess what? Shannon didn't lose a second of sleep over it. Ray was just another loud voice in a sea of millions talking down on him. And Shannon treated him like background noise. Instead of blowing up, Shannon played it cool. He sent a quiet but powerful message. Ray, and anybody else can run their mouths all day, he's still gonna keep shining. No anger, no bitterness, just brushing it off like lint on his jacket.
I kind of started to watch him, and then we kind of went our own separate ways. Because I'm like, you're gonna take that with me.
Fans ate that up, calling it the ultimate high road moment. But not everyone's clapping. Some folks are heated, saying Ray crossed the line, because these two weren't just rivals, they were once friends. Even Corey Holcomb was shaking his head, saying he couldn't believe Ray would drag a man he once called a brother, in public no less.
That route is to become so worldly that you become popular because you're talking about ignorance. Right? A lot of times, a lot of these gossip conversations that they're having and bringing up all this stuff, I'm not going to do that to nobody. I'm not in the business for that. I'm in life to try to teach people what does it mean to be a better man and get back to the kingdom. And a lot of times, and a lot of guys get in trouble with these podcasts and things, man, because everybody wants the follower, everybody wants to be popular, everybody wants to make money. But that's a tight rope into what you call influence and popularity.
And let's not forget, people still remember when Ray himself was tangled in that infamous murder trial after 2 people lost their lives at a party he was attending. Back then, it wasn't Shannon trashing Ray. It was the media that had him under fire. Back then, the media was tearing Ray to pieces. And guess who stepped in swinging to defend him? Shannon Sharpe. He wasn't quiet about it either. He had plenty to say about how reporters were painting Ray as a straight up villain. Shannon stood tall and said, I just wish the media...
I got nothing bad to say. Because a lot of things when you tolerate it, I'm going to go ahead and say my thing. Whatever transpired, I'll bite my tongue. I'll be the bigger person. I'll walk away. Hey, you right. Because you know why, Ocho? It's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
You know how I know? Because your boy, you looking at him, he low-hanging fruit. There are a lot of people taking your shot at your boy.
Come on.
All 2,700 of you would print him being the best football player. That's all he asked. Give him a fair shake. That was his plea. Stop dragging the man. Highlight his greatness. Shannon doubled down, saying he hadn't heard one single person ask Ray about the Giants in the Super Bowl or the Ravens in the Super Bowl. Instead, every question was a reminder of jail, of scandal, of chaos. Shannon snapped back with raw honesty. He reminded the press that Ray was literally fighting for his life, his career, and everything he worked for. That's what it felt like, and Shannon made sure they heard it. He pushed fans to imagine it.
We're going to be all right, OJ.
Yeah.
That tribute said we're going to be all right.
Yeah, listen, I could have told you that. I could have told you that. I've been telling you that.
What if someone was about to snatch your whole life away? How would you react? Nobody else wanted to defend Ray publicly. Everybody stayed quiet or whispered support behind the scenes. Shannon was so fed up, he crowned himself the one man willing to take the heat. And let's be real, he was one of the only people bold enough to stand by Ray during that storm. And now, look how the tables flipped. Shannon Sharpe just got slapped with a lawsuit accusing him of mistreating a young lover. ESPN dropped him like a hot potato, and his reputation's hanging by a thread. But instead of standing in his corner, Ray jumped right in with the crowd, dragging him through the mud like he never knew him.
Can't help but say this. I remember when, first of all, you see them two guys right there in that picture? Them two are the baddest motherfuckers to ever play the game.
Oh, for sure.
And man, look, you see that motherfucker right there with 52 on?
It's a monster, man.
That's one of the baddest motherfuckers to ever play the game.
Corey Holcomb wasn't having it. He called Ray straight up hypocritical. In his words, a man who's been through a murder trial should be the last one passing judgment. Corey made it crystal clear. He thinks Ray only came at Shannon because he was desperate for attention, and honestly, that's about as low as it gets. Fans were quick to point out the irony, and many found comfort knowing Shannon still had people in his corner. Corey showed loyalty, but guess what? He wasn't the only one stepping up. Former football safety Ryan Clark also jumped in the mix, and he came out defending Shannon hard. He basically said if Ray really claims he's coming from some moral or spiritual high ground, then he should be showing grace, not trying to humiliate his old teammate in front of millions. And when it comes to that sell out for fame and fortune accusation, Ryan flat out doesn't buy it. Ray tried to brush it off by saying all that chaos just comes with the hustle, and even tossed shade at Ryan Clark, telling him to sit down. But here's the twist. Lewis admitted that while Shannon might not even be guilty of the things he was accusing him of, he himself was guilty of way worse. The real question is, why did Ray even feel the need to unload all this dirt in the first place? A lot of people think the answer is simple: jealousy. Sure, Ray's not broke. He's sitting on around $35 million running the Ray Lewis Show championship mentality, pushing his life coach brand and doing business deals. But Shannon, he's playing in a completely different league. First, his podcast blew up, then he linked with ESPN, and now he's swimming in levels of fame and money Ray probably never dreamed of. It's giving bitter energy because, let's be real, Shannon plotted out his media empire years ago, while Ray's just now trying to carve out space in the podcast world. And when you stack them side by side, it almost feels like Ray isn't really mad at Shannon. He's mad at himself for not making those same moves when he had the chance. Some fans say the real crack in this brotherhood came way back in 2017. That's when Ray Lewis hit both knees during the national anthem with the Ravens before their game against the Jaguars. That move had Shannon heated. He felt like it was flat out disrespectful. And he didn't keep it private either. He dragged Ray live on TV in front of the world. Ray never forgave that. He wanted Shannon to call him like a man and handle it behind closed doors. But instead, Shannon aired him out. And now, here's the irony. Years later, Ray's doing the exact same thing. Fans are calling it hypocritical, and that's exactly why Corey Holcomb's Clapback hit so hard. He said what everyone was already whispering. Ray wasn't exposing Shannon. He was exposing his own jealousy. So now, the $1 million question is this: was Ray really calling out Shannon's mistakes? Or was this just his way of screaming, "Don't forget about me"? Either way, one thing's for sure. This feud ain't cooling off anytime soon. And the mess is just getting started. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to VerseSpill for more wild celebrity drama.